LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof.
everyone. First of all, wishing you all a very happy new year. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Monica Bachchan. I'm a founder of MetaLogic PMS. It is a maximum women staff organization. And why we call it a women staff organization? Because we are 80% women in MetaLogic. Today, on 12th of January 2021, we are presenting you webinar on PLI scheme for steel products. Webinar sponsored by Jindal Steel and Power Limited and associate partner Dana Roof Private Limited. This is our 24th webinar during COVID-19 period and first webinar of 2021. Just a short housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions during the panel discussion, please type them into the question box in your GoToWebinar control panel. I'll bring them up during the presentation, and we will also have time for questions at the end. Always mention your company name and organization which you are representing and who would you like to address your question to. We are also having some poll questions for the audience. Please remain active to participate in the poll all the time. Before we start, I would like to give a brief about the session to you all. The PLI, which is the Production Linked Incentive Scheme, seeks to make India a significant manufacturing destination and also log into the global supply chain. A significant increase in global demand for specialty steel has given India an opportunity to attract foreign investment as well as encourage domestic manufacturers to focus on manufacturing steel in India under the flagship of Make in India initiative of the government. To achieve this objective, the finance minister has allocated rupees 6,322 crores for this segment of the steel industry. Traditionally, specialty steel includes the high-grade ones used by automakers or electrical steel that are needed to make transformers and generators. Currently, high-strength steel, coated steel, rails, and alloy products are included under the scheme. However, deliberations are underway for finalizing the list of the products to be included in this scheme. Our webinar today will also serve as medium for policymakers to attain valuable suggestions in this direction. Our today's panelists are Mr. Saurabh Agarwal, he's a partner at Ernst & Young LLP. Mr. Anirban Dasgupta, CEO, Bhilai Steel Plant of SAIL. Mr. V.R. Sharma, Managing Director of Jindal Steel and Power Limited. Mr. Sharad Mahendra, CEO of JSPL Steel Coated Products. Dr. Anil Dhawan, Executive Director of Alloy Steel Producers Association of India. Mr. Raghavan, Head of Business Strategy at ArcelorMittal and Nippon Steel India. And I'm your moderator, Monica Bachchan. Begin with, I would like to start with Mr. Saurabh to please open the session. And I believe, Mr. Saurabh, you have a presentation. So please let me know when to make you a presenter. Shall I make you a presenter now?
Yeah,
Okay.
Monica, go ahead.
Saurabh, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Monica. So, as the intent of the scheme, if we talk about production-linked incentive scheme, that's what the government is aiming at. Government has come out with the similar schemes for mobile phone sector and electronic components, followed by which for medical APIs and medical devices. When we talk about the scheme for steel sector, there has been a big budget which has been allocated close to around 6,000 odd crores. And there are similar schemes which will be launched for other 9 sectors which government is aiming at. So if we talk about today, more so from a production-linked incentive scheme for steel sector, primarily the important element for us to understand is as to what all products are getting covered, what is the rate of incentives which is being offered, and how the government will be evaluating the various people who will be making applications for the scheme. The scheme will not be something which will be eligible for all. It will be eligible wherein you will have to file applications, and based on certain set parameters, government will choose the organization to whom they want to benefits of the PLI scheme. Primarily, the intent of the scheme is to promote the production of steel rails, coated steel, alloy steel bars, rods, and high strength steel, where the production is either not happening in India and we still rely upon the imported material, or on those products where there is a significant exports happening from India. If we see the overall intention of the PLI scheme is to make Bharat Atmanirbhar. And when we talk about Bharat being Atmanirbhar or so-called self-reliant, what is important is import substitution and thereafter making India as a manufacturing hub for the world and doing the exports from India. As a part of this scheme, broadly there will be three categories under the scheme wherein they'll be giving you an incentive of 3%, 6%, and 9% on incremental sales, including domestic as well as exports incremental sale on specialty steel grades manufactured in India. If we talk about 9%, primarily they are talking about plates or flats of API, advanced high strength steel, boiler grade, pressure vessels grade steel, abrasion resistance, wear resistance steels, rails, spools, and die steel, valve steel, and bearing steel. At a 6% level, they are talking about 10 mil products, coated plated products of metallic or non-metallic alloy, electro-galvanized steel. And at a 3%, they are talking about HTHR coil, sheets, plates, color-coated, galvanized iron, aluminum zinc coated, so on and so forth. Primarily, these are the details which are available to us based on our discussions with the associations and the industry. Just to put it on record, we don't have any draft of the scheme shared by the government with us. The scheme is expected to be in operation for a period of 5 years, starting from FY 21-22 and lasting to FY 25-26. So whatever is the 5-year incremental sales which you will be doing, that will be eligible for incentives for the said purpose. The base year will be FY 19-20, which is a normal year compared to 2021, which has been a COVID year for all. The benefit will be available to only those companies who are engaged in end-to-end manufacturing of identified specialty steel grades. It's not eligible for those companies who only do a part of the production process. So the end-to-end manufacturing activity will have to be undertaken by the company or the group companies. So in case you have a group structure wherein one of your entity does one part, another entity does another part, and so on and so forth. And overall, as a part of the group, you will be eligible for the scheme. How they are defining group as? Primarily, the definition of group will be wherein you are having a 26% or more interest, so it's a subsidiary, or you are directly or indirectly controlling 50% of the board of directors. On the PLI scheme, the way they will be selecting the applicants, what we are hearing is they are primarily putting into certain weights around the selection process as to what will be the incremental sales you will be making, how much will be the investment which you will be carrying out, how much will be your R&D expenditure, and last but not the least, that you are not changing your product line, your current production should remain standstill or grow. But you cannot just move the production lines to a different grade of steel and take the advantage of the PLI scheme. If we talk from a recommendation perspective, one of my recommendation or something which is close to my heart is that in such a big investment, so steel is one of our capital intensive industry, and the type of products which you are talking about, which are not currently manufactured in India or do not have much of a production presence in India, except the 3% rated products, which is STHR coils, sheets, and plates, etc. There will be a long gestation cycle to put up a project. So it may take 2 years, 3 years for the project to become operational. So one of my recommendation to the government would be that at least there should be a gestation period which should be allowed to the industry, and industry should be allowed to take the block of 5 years, maybe after 3 years or 2 years from the date they apply for the scheme and they become entitled to the scheme benefit, because typically it will take so much of time for the production to start operation. This will in turn help you in improving your competitiveness in the world market as well as the Indian market, wherein there are a lot of competition from the imported steel players. Also, it will also entail is that you have a better IRR on your investments. So this is one particular scheme which is coming live and which should go live in another month or so, as soon as the same is approved by the authorities. When we talk about other schemes, so there are two more schemes which have been doing the rounds and which have been in the space for long. One is the state incentives under the state industrial policies. So typically in the current environment in which we are in, each state is competing with another state to get the investments into their state. With this particular part, So each state offers a state incentive under their state industrial policies in the form of a SGST refund, stamp duty exemption, electricity duty exemption, power tariff subsidy, capital and interest subsidy, and employment of PF contribution, and some more type of incentives can also be offered by certain states depending upon which state you are setting up your plant. So as a part of these state incentives, again, you can help in improving your IRR on the project, and part of your project cost is funded through these particular incentives by the government. These incentives run typically for a period of 10 years, but when we talk about mega projects or super mega or ultra mega projects, these incentives run even for 20 to 25 years of period as well. Last but not the least, we call it as a mover scheme, which is the Manufacturing and Other Operations in Bonded Warehouse Regulation Scheme 2019, implemented from October 2019 to promote Make in India. As a part of this scheme, what government is doing is that they are giving you a duty deferral on capital goods, raw material, etc. Primarily, it is more relevant from a capital goods perspective, wherein you generally, as an industry, we import a lot of capital goods from outside India to set up a plant. As a part of this scheme, you can get your custom duty deferral in the form of GST and basic customs duty deferral, and you will be required to pay those duties only at the end when you are selling these capital goods or a scrap of the same in the domestic Indian market. In case you export the capital goods post scrappage or as second-hand capital goods from India, then you are not required to pay these duties as well. There are no export obligations attached to this scheme, and there's no interest on the deferred duty payment. So what is important is you can again improve your IRR and reduce your project cost by going under the mover scheme. That's all from my end. Back to you, Monica.
Thank you so much, Saurabh ji. And with this, I'm moving to our next panelist we have. We have now Mr. Anirban Dasgupta, CEO of Bhilai Steel Plant Limited of SAIL. Mr. Anirban ji, I request you to please unmute yourself. And it's over to you, sir.
Namaskar, everybody. Good afternoon. I am Anirban Dasgupta, Director in charge of Bhilai Steel Plant, a unit of Steel Authority of India Limited. So I was just going through the scheme. I was just thinking about it. I mean, there are many issues. I mean, it's a very, very welcome scheme as far as manufacturing of high-end steel is concerned. So if I may share some number, I mean, last year, India exported 9,277 million USD worth of steel in 1920 and imported USD 10,734 million worth of steel in the same FY. Although in terms of tonnage, the exports were higher than imports, but in terms of value, the imports were higher than exports. This year, the trends have changed a bit. We have imported in less in terms of value also as compared to last financial year. However, the average cost of imported steel, which are the mainly the high-end steel, is around $2,000 to $2,500 per ton, against our exports of around $600 to $800 per ton. Because we are exporting more of basic grade steel, semis, and importing specialized steels, which are attracting higher price in the international market. So this trend needs to be reversed as early as possible. That means the country, there are two things which can happen, as Mr. Saurabh was also telling. Basically, we need to become Atmanirbhar in terms of this high-end steels. And B, given our scale of operation and the potential which the Indian steel industry has, we'll have to start exporting these high-end steels also. So this is the main, this is one issue which is there in our steel business. The second part is the level playing field with emerging opportunities. As per a study of the Niti Aayog, the Indian steel industry suffers from a disability of around $80 to 100 per ton of steel on account of higher logistics and infra cost, higher power cost and import duty on coal, taxes and duties on iron ore. I mean, our royalties are on iron ore are highest in the world, and higher capital cost. as we all know that our rate of borrowing is higher than the international standards. While the Indian steel is globally competitive, it slips on account of higher costs outside the factory gate. As per the Indian Steel Association, Indian steel industry suffers from 8 to 9% disability on account of non-moderatable taxes and duties such as taxes on fuel, coal consumption, cess, royalty, NMET, DMF, that is District Mineral Fund, etc., on minerals, etc. This disadvantage translates into higher cost of production for the Indian steel industry. As a result, it is not able to produce and sell specialty grade to the domestic users, as it is expensive by 10 to 20% as compared to imported steel, especially which comes from FTA countries. So this was the basic background. With this, I think this is a very, very welcome move by the government of India so as to incentivize these specialty steels. And as we understand that some 6,000 odd crores have been allotted to the steel ministry with three categories of incentives which are coming in. One is the 9%, another is the 6% category, another is the 3% category. 9% category mainly comprises AHSS steel, that is advanced high strength steels for the automotive sector, because there is a imminent need from the emission point of view to reduce the weight of the automobiles, which can happen with advanced high strength steels, AHSS steels, which can reduce the weight of the automobiles. B, very high strength plates and coils for the pipe industry, API grade, API XFT and above. C, the whole gamut of this electrical steels, especially the CRGO grade, which is the low hysteresis loss grade for the transformers, stationary electrical equipment. D, for the rails, I mean, there are two categories of rails which we are still importing and which we need to substitute it by Indian version. One is that this head hardened rails. Another is the thick web asymmetric rails, which is used for making switches and points. As far as the 6% category is concerned, we have steel like tin plates and other high strength steels. And 3% category, you have mainly have high tensile coils, galvanile steel, etc., and coated steels. So given these incentives, I mean, it would be a very welcome move for Indian steel manufacturers to increase the quantum of production of these steels. Coming to Steel Authority of India Limited, particularly I will start with Bhilai Steel Plant, where we are the largest manufacturer of rail in this country. We have a rail making capacity which is around 1.7 million ton, taking into account two rail mills, the old rail mill and the new rail mill, the universal rail mill. So we have already started manufacturing this thick web asymmetrical rails, which we are now ready to supply to Indian Railways. And going forward, we intend to increase the production of these rails. These rails also has, apart from these rails are now mostly being imported. I think 100% is being imported. So this will be, this country will be able to completely switch over to Indian-made thick web asymmetric rails, which will be a huge cost saving and a step towards Atmanirbhar Bharat. So this incentive will drive us to make more and more these rails. Another line which we are going to start shortly is the heat treated rails, head hardened rails, which will also substitute a lot of imported head hardened rails which are coming in the country. This will help the Indian Railways, the metro rails, which need the requirement of head hardened rails are increasing day by day. So this is, and as far as high strength plates are concerned, in Steel Authority of India Limited, we also have plans to make API grades of X80 and above, which will also be, and we have already started manufacturing some on a test case basis, which will be substituting the imported ones. So, and also this other high strength steels, which will be coming shortly in our product basket, including AHSS hot rolled coils, which we will be starting making soon from our new hot stripper at Rourkela Steel Plant of Steel Authority of India Limited. So the entire gamut of steel which have been envisaged, a majority of them in Steel Authority of India Limited will be soon starting to manufacture them. We have already started manufacturing some of them, and going forward we'll be increasing that so that country can really, and this incentive will really sort of propel us to increase the quantum of these steels year on year, and also enable Steel Authority of India Limited in its humble way to contribute towards nation building. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anirban, and for giving us the overview of PLI scheme, and Saurabh ji has also contributed. Now we will go very specific, product-specific detailing with our upcoming speakers. But before that, audience, I would like to raise a poll. So Sharma sir, before I come to you, I would like to ask one question from our audience. So on your screen, and I would like everyone to vote for this question. So the question is, should PLI scheme be only for specialty steel? Should PLI scheme be for specialty steel only? I would like all our audience to please vote for this question. क्या PLI स्कीम जो है, जो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ फाइनेंस ने लॉन्च करी है, क्या ये सिर्फ स्पेशलिटी स्टील के लिए ही चाहिए यहाँ पे, or you think more products can be added? Yes, I want my audience to be very, very quick in participating the polls. Yes, so I'm closing the polls. We have the results. So here are the results. So 44% audience feel that yes, it should only be for specialty steel, whereas 50% feels no. They think that more products needs to be added, and 6% feels not sure. So more or less we have answer in yes and no, which means half of the audience feels that we need to add up more products. So moving on to our next speaker, we have Mr. V.R. Sharma, Managing Director of Jindal Steel and Power Limited. I welcome you, V.R. Sharma, sir. Over to you, sir. Eric, I'm just unmuting yourself. Just 1 second, sir. I'm unmuting. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, and good afternoon to all of my colleagues, my friends, which we keep meeting in various webinars. And thank you, Monica, for bringing everybody on a platform to discuss this PLI scheme. I'm thankful to Mr. Saurabh Agarwal. He has, in detail, he has explained everything. I'm also thankful to Mr. Anirban, who has raised the concern of the steel industry. I'll not take much of your time, but 2-3 things. One is what our government is doing for the industry as a whole, whether it is steel industry, MSMEs, I mean, that is appreciable. So government, we can expect all these things from government in this pandemic, and whatever they are doing till now, they've done a very good job. Yes, of course, they are also very open to discuss as to what is required. Your last question, what you asked, or you took your opinion poll, whether it should be extended to only to particularly the specialty steel or to any kind of steel. So I am for not only for specialty steel, any steel which is coming in the country or where we need a replacement, this scheme should be extended to all of them. This is my personal view. Yes, looking to the overall perspective in this particular case, government has come out with the scheme, and we acknowledge it very well. Now, what is to be done? The mindset is required to be changed. The tender document, the inquiries, the people, those who are sitting in the government offices, those who are preparing the tenders, they are not yet aligned with the Atmanirbhar concept of the Prime Minister. So that concept of Atmanirbharta is to be revisited by all of the people, those who make the tender document. And this is where the flaws are. And sometimes the restrictive clauses are put so that domestic companies, they do not enter in their hemisphere. So this is what we need to change, and government will have to give proper training to the people, those who draft the contracts, so that they know what is the campaign driven by Honorable Prime Minister and what is the gravity of this. Now, for example, we are producing head hardened rails. We are producing grade 1080 and also 1175. 1080 grade is used by metro rails, but still the contracts, they speak so many restrictive policies which deprive us or which prevent us to limited to a limited quantity or order of 20% as a developmental case. You see, in any of the business, especially the rail business, the RDSO, our rights, or Indian Railway, they judge the capability of the rail mill. Like, for example, Bhilai Steel, they are the leader in the rail manufacturing. They developed 3 months back a grade called R260. Okay, and they already supplied also. Now, if they want to develop tomorrow 1080, then the metro rails or any other user should not ask them that you should have 3 years of experience. Why should they have 3 years of experience? We are facing the same problem because when we go to metro, they say that as per our tender document, any supplier who is participating to supply the rails, the supplier should have at least 3 years of experience. I mean, this is something impossible, because that means you are preventing a company who is capable of producing rails, no matter what the grade is secondary. The first thing is the capability of producing rails. The grade is a heat treatment. We can always do it. There is no issue. So these are the restrictive policies. Sometimes they mention that the company should be in PBT, should be so much, or company should be in a net profit for last 3 years or 4 years or 2 years, whatever. So these are the restrictive policies. So these policies should be abolished, and they should evaluate the local suppliers at par, so that the dream taken by a Prime Minister can be fulfilled in toto. And we should speak, as he told, vocal for local. I mean, that becomes a reality. Now, we are also producing, as explained by Mr. Anirban. He has covered all those subjects, so I'll not like to repeat, but few points over and above. Like, we are producing the specialty plates for the shipbuilding, especially specialty structure for the power transmission. We are producing specialty round billets for oil country pipelines or the seamless pipes. We are producing plates for API grade up to X80. Still, people are finding the way to import these plates. People are finding way to import these goods into India. So this should be prevented. So the quality, warranties, guarantees, whatever the foreign suppliers are giving, we are ready to give all those warranties, guarantees, and our inspection agency is a domestic Indian inspection agency. Like, for example, in the matter of rails, it is done by rights. In the matter of the seamless pipes, it is done by the IBR inspectors. So we can underwrite any kind of warranty and guarantee. What we expect from the Indian industry, that you should give us a chance so that the import can be stopped in the country. And this is what the Honorable Prime Minister has explained time and again, that we have to make India as Atmanirbhar. And if we are aligned, the buyer, the tender document preparator, or the industry put together, all three, we are aligned, then I think we can, to a great extent, we can fulfill the dream of Atmanirbharta in this country, and we can definitely build the country of our dreams. The country has country has to reach to 300 million ton of production, and this 300 million ton of production can only be arrived or reached when the Indian steel demand increases. It cannot be we cannot reach to that level unless we start consuming the domestic goods. The domestic industry, the steel industry, also has to be very considerate in fixing up the prices so that our prices are always very competitive, and the customers, they do not look east or west to bring the steel in the country. So this is what we assure. We have, as Mr. Anirban told, there is a demand of asymmetric rails. We have also produced the asymmetric rail now in our Raigad plant. So put together, jointly, Steel Authority of India and JSPL can meet out the entire nation's demand for specialty rails, for asymmetric rails, for R260, for 1080, 1175, and any new products what Government of India, Ministry of Railway, they want to bring in the country. So this is what the overall perspective. So I'll not take much of your time, but only concluding remarks. Number one, Atmanirbharta is not a slogan, it is a necessity. Number two, supporting vocal for local is not a slogan, but is a spirit, what we should take it. Number three, the steel manufacturers, the steel plants, they will have to be more and more competitive so that people don't look overseas to import the steel in the country. We have to see how to cut costs, how to bring economy of scales in a particular product, how to reduce our input costs. So those areas we have to see. Thank you very much from my side.
Thank you so much, Mr. V.R. Sharma. And moving to our next panelist, we have Mr. Sharad Mahendra. Sharad sir, before I come to you, I would like to take up another poll question to our audience. So audience on your screen. So the question is, investment in steel sector is amongst the highest in the entire PLI array. Should the scheme be limited for 5 years only for steel? Audience, please vote and please be very, very quick. Investment in steel sector is among the highest in the entire PLI array. Should the scheme be limited for 5 years only for steel? All right, so yes, today we have very, very active audience. I'm closing down the poll to share the results. So we have the results now. 72% feel no, 24% feel yes, and 4% feels not sure. So 72% of our audience feels that the scheme needs to increase the gestation period. Now, moving on to our next panelist, we have Mr. Sharad Mahendra. He's the CEO of JSW Steel Coated Products. Over to you, Sharad sir. I request you to please unmute yourself.
Yeah, good afternoon, Monica. I think thanks to Mr. Saurabh, Anirban ji and V.R. Sharma ji after listening. And thanks, Monica. I think this is one of the topics which have been selected today, the point of discussion, which is extremely important for a medium term for the industry, along with the participation from the government of senior government officials also. I think this is a very, very good initiative taken by MetaLogic. And I think which will be very, very useful both in meeting the government objective of Atmanirbhar Bharat and also the industry's point of view before the scheme is announced. What I feel after going through, though Saurabh ji has already given a brief of the scheme, but the basic objective which comes out from this scheme is basically the capability building to be Atmanirbhar, which means reduce the dependence on imports, leading to investments, because investment has a significant weightage in this scheme, leading to employment in the country, and also to bring the capabilities to export also, which means export means the forex earnings, reducing the imports means forex savings and employment. So I think this initiative, one of the many initiatives taken by government during last, I will say 6 months to 1 year, have been really, really good. And we have started seeing the things happening on ground also. So without going much into the details, the points which have already been touched upon, I will like to focus on the scheme impact and the points which maybe can be taken back before all the numbers and everything are finalized and announced for the quoted products. But before I start to that, just to give an overview that in the country, if we see that currently the quoted capacity is almost in excess of 12 million tons. And if we see the previous year, not the current year, because of the pandemic, Q1 was not good, the consumption is close to about 8.8 million, which means the quoted industry in terms of the capacity is operating at the rate of around 70-71% capacity utilization. And then when we are talking for investment, it appears to be a challenge that against a capacity in excess of 10 million, 12 million and consumption of around 8.8 million, there is enough capacity which is lying. But we have to understand that the objective of the scheme to be export capable, replacing the imports, it means that we have to bring in the new technologies, the new product capability to produce the product range, which is limited today or is not present. Just to give an example, two of the very highly demanding industries, whether it is auto industry or the appliance industry, significant progress has been made in the country to cater to their requirement locally, but still significant portion of their total requirement is still import dependent. So all these things need high investment, but if the objective is to replace the imports, these capabilities need to be built. And once these are ready to cater to these requirements, the capability of India as a country and the steel industry, Indian steel industry will be capable to cater to the requirements globally also, which means our objective to increase the export will also increase and will be met. And as in the last previous question, Monica, your question just prior to my session was that definitely it's a very, very high investment which is required in the industry, which is of course the gestation period is there. I will touch upon briefly my view on behalf of the industry later. But yes, this kind of investment, when it is required, we have to understand that it leads to employment. And when we talk of coated products, and especially within coated, when we talk of galvanized, galvalume, galvanneal, color coated, tin, color coated is the most value added product in the entire value chain. If you see, it is the maybe you can say close to the last end of the value chain. And my observations now, I will come without going much into detail, is that the percentage distribution on the various products within the steel, the budget allocated for this scheme for steel, specialty steel products, is that it has been kept color coated being the most, it needs maximum investment, results in maximum employment in the entire value chain. But the percentage given is only 3%. It may be thought of that because the value of the product is high, so 3% in terms of absolute number is very high. But that absolute number needs much more investment than at the first stage or second stage of the entire chain. So I think this 3%, is it justified, is my view. I think it is the highest value chain, building a capability to export also, to replace the imports, cater to the requirement of the industry, whether appliance, auto, or many other value-added industries. So I think this is, I feel, is not justified to give 3% weightage only to color, where it takes the longest time to put up, if your entire value chain, if you count, to set up the color-coated industry. Because the condition says from steel making to the entire value chain. So this is where I feel that can be looked upon, though in value it appears to be high because the product value is high. Because there are other uncertainties. Today we see color-coated, the country's capacity is close to 3.5 million. But the country demand is in the range of around 2.5 million only. So still 1 million ton capacity, excess capacity is available in the country. So whether this will motivate the entire industry to invest and set up again when there is in itself an excess capacity available today, and with this 3%, maybe 5%, 6%, whatever number may further motivate to take a calculated risk to go for the investment, because it is not for today, it is for future. And apart from this, one more point, because most of the points have been already spoken about. One is the gestation period, though it was touched upon. Like a scheme, suppose starting in FY21, the start beginning of 2021, and for a 5-year period. So I think start point and end point for various criteria need definitely to be again thought upon. Investments one way can be that a longer gestation period instead of 5 years, because even if someone decides, the organization decides to invest, maybe coming on ground, minimum will be 2 years, depending on what investment is happening. 2 years, 3 years it takes. So scheme period left is hardly 2 years or 3 years maximum. So either extend that, or maybe related to meeting all these conditions, investment made 2 year, 3 year, 4 year prior to the start of this date, to be considered, for which other parameters in terms of production, in terms of other R&D conditions, all others remain same. So I think this is one point which is extremely, extremely important, to be either to extend the gestation period or to consider the investments made maybe 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, for whatever number it comes to. So this is what I will say. But once again, I will say that this is definitely going to be a good boost for the country and for the steel industry. And I think we'll definitely see new investments coming up and new capability building, which is going to last long. And India definitely will cater to the global world requirement, not just catering to the domestic requirement. That's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sharad sir, and thank you for sharing your perspective from color-coded point of view. Moving on to next speaker, we have Dr. Anil Dhawan, Executive Director of Alloy Steel Producers Association of India. But Dhawan sir, you need to wait for a minute. Before that, I would like to raise another question, to our audience. So audience, please be ready for the next question we have. On your screen, please vote. So the question is, in parallel with PLI, is there a need for the government to curb imports of the products under PLI? In parallel with PLI, Production Link Incentive Scheme, is there a need for the government to curb imports of the products under PLI? Audience, please vote. Please be very, very quick. In parallel with PLI, is there a need for the government to curb imports of the products under Production Link Incentive? So we have the results now. So results on your screen. So 65% people feel yes, there is a need for the government to curb imports of the products which are under PLI. 24% feels no, and 11% people are not sure, which means 65% of our audience feel that the products which are included under PLI scheme, the government needs to curb the imports of those products. With this, I would like to welcome Dr. Anil Dhawan, Executive Director of Alloy Steel Producers Association of India. Sir, over to you. And please unmute your mic, sir.
Thank you, Monica, and MetaLogic. I think, and fellow panelists and all the audience that we have. I think it would not have been most appropriate time. This is to talk about the scheme, the PLI scheme, which I think somewhere in November, the government announced it as an extension of a PLI scheme, which was existing for 2-3 products.
And the most significant point when it was announced through PIB was two segments which was talked in the document. One was automobile and auto components, which had a outlay of 57,042 crore. And the second sector out of the 10 sector was certainly specialty steel, which had a outlay of 6,222 crores. In all probability, and I think all panelists would agree with me, both are certainly connected because of the requirement of the segment. But I think the allocation to the steel sector or the specialty sector, perhaps as mentioned by the other panelists, and the needs of further review, particularly as it has been mentioned that it is a high investment segment. Having said so, my friends and colleagues have Mr. Saurabh, Mr. Anirban, Mr. Sharma, and Mr. Sharad, they have all emphasized on the important aspects that which we perceive to be there in the final document, because none of us have primarily seen any authentic document so far. It's all in the news that we have read. But having said so, the three main aspects, and I was reading through the PIB document, which Mr. Saurabh has also mentioned, it is basically to see the India's manufacturing capability and enhancing exports leading to Atmanirbhar Bharat. Mr. Sharma quite well explained about it. While Atmanirbhar Bharat and steel segment into this doing a lot on this, I would try to bring the focus onto the auto segment and alloy steel industry, which is, out of the four families which were talked in the document or the announcement, the fourth was alloy steel bars and rods. And where does fit into? It is basically two segments. 60 to 70% is auto segment, and balance is mostly defense and others. And it covers most critical applications, and therefore every single ton of steel which is being produced in alloy steel is basically a specialty steel. And that is the focus, I thought, which must have been in the mind of everybody, even in the government, for including it as a segment. Now, alloy steel capacity in the country is about 12 million tons, and the capacity utilization is much less. I think it's just about 60 to 70%, depending upon the unit what it is producing. But the important part which I wanted to bring was, when you talk about exports, there is just the flip of that is the import substitution, which also is a very important aspect in the scheme. And the auto segment mentioned in the last meeting with the ministry that today the localization of steel by the alloy steel producers have taken it to from 60% to 90%, still 10% being imported. That is one part, only on steel point of view. But look at auto components. You heard that during COVID, when China's problems were being discussed and the imports from China were being stopped, first impact was on auto component, and therefore there is a need to support this auto component industry by the alloy steel industry to make up, and that is where the role of this scheme comes high. And that's why we feel perhaps it's a very good step by the government of India to have introduced the scheme. Thanks for this to both government. However, the implementation part, which my fellow panelists have talked about, is going to be a really important aspect. First, defining the scheme itself, whether it is covering the right grades or the codes. Second, the distribution. And three, the thresholds which are being talked about. And therefore, while we are sure the concerned ministry, our steel ministry, is looking into the aspects, But the alloy steel industry feels there are three specific suggestions which should be taken into account. One, of course, is the product within the categories. It should not be limited to only few, what has been mentioned. In fact, besides tool steel, wall steel, and bearing steels, we should add remelted steels with the facilities of ESR, VAR, super alloy steel, then precipitation hardened stainless steels, and high tensile strength and high fatigue resistance steels. They must be added to by and large cover all the categories which are being covered in specialty steel. Second is the threshold which I talked about. I think the threshold should be pegged at 6% and nothing higher than that, because a scheme has to incentivize the industry, and alloy steel producers are all small producers. And if we have to take it to a higher level of localization, a higher level of utilization of the scheme, then threshold has to be kept at 6% and not anything higher than this. We are hearing something higher than 6%. That may not be practically workable. Second is the rate of PLI. We are talking about 3, 6, and 9. I think there is a scope certainly to look at higher percentages even there, because of the investment and the very high cost, particularly on the alloy steels. They are perhaps the costliest. Some of the alloy steels are, some of them are falling into the category of SS also, are very, very expensive. That has to go high. And the allocation, I think all my colleagues, my previous colleague also mentioned, we feel at least for specialty steels, alloy steels category, where every single ton is a special steel, they should have at least 40% of the total allocation. Or the absolute terms, the over quantum should go up, and minimum about 2,600, 2,700 crores should be allocated to this segment. That is very, very important. And one more aspect, because of the secondary sector, I think eligibility criteria, even the mini steel plants, which some of them do not have total integrated facilities, they should also be included, so that wide coverage is given to the scheme, and more special steels are produced. I think with these few suggestions, we can only move on to the wish that ultimately, when the scheme comes, and the people who are listening today, I think, and those who matter in the government, they really take it up, and we really are looking forward to the scheme, which is workable, acceptable by and large to all segments, and particularly alloy and special steel, which are smaller units. They need a big boost to take care of all imports. And I must say, Monica, the questions you have picked up, all the three questions, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Number 1, yes, specialty steel 44%. That means the commodity steels should be dealt with separately. This scheme should deal with special steels. And the last one, of course, where it you asked for the carbon imports. While this alloy steel, even the government accepts this, that we are looking into every single import. SIMS scheme came, and today we are in a position to offer all grades, and we have also taken care of the BIS needs, and therefore there is actually no need for giving any clearance for any imports. And I fully support. I wish if you had taken panelists, all the 6 would have also pegged in the same what the audience is saying. So going by the scheme as it is, we must compliment the government for taking such an excellent initiative, bringing steel into the scheme. And within this steel, we feel that the fourth family, which has been mentioned, alloy and steels, is very correctly mentioned, except that perhaps include more grades and expand it to about 2,600, 2,700 crore allocation. We are all with it. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dhawan. With this, we will move on to our last speaker, and then we will start our panel discussion. And audience, please prepare your questions and do send me on the window. So we have Mr. Raghavan Aravamudhan, Head of Business Strategy at ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India. But Raghavan ji, you need to wait for 1 minute again. Before you coming on to you, I want to ask one more poll question from our audience. Audience on your screen. So this is a question. The question is, please rate how PLI scheme will help the country. So what do you think? It will increase exports or it will substitute imports, or you think can't say as it's a limited time scheme, or the last option will not make a significant difference? Please share your views. How do you see PLI scheme will help the country? Will it increase the import or substitute imports? Can't say as it is a limited time scheme, or will not make a significant difference. Please be unbiased. Yeah, so we have the results. Results on your screen now. So 23% feels that
We can't hear you, Monica. Hello. Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
Monica, madam, we are not able to hear you. Are you there?
There's some problem at her end, I think.
Suppose to Dhawan sahab.
I'm so sorry. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes,
we
ma'am.
are.
Yes.
I'm so sorry. We just had a little technical glitch. So Raghavan, over to you.
Thank you, Ms. Monica, and eminent panelists, industry friends. Very good to meet you all, and thank you for this opportunity. Thank you, Ms. Monica.
Raghavan, I've made you a presenter, so you can now share your screen.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for organizing this this discussion at a very crucial time. I hear that this scheme is going to be launched very soon. I'm Raghavan. I'm the head of business strategy in ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel India. Very good to meet you all. I was very curious about the previous question. I think yes. I think the results from the poll are pretty bang on. Yeah, exports increase and import substitution. Primarily, the objectives of the scheme. And we at AMNS, we strongly feel that this scheme can be a good incentive, can be a good boost for the steel sector, and bring in a lot of products which can be substituted, which are currently being imported. An incentive of 9% is very attractive, definitely, for the industry. That's our strong viewpoint. And I've also heard the eminent colleagues from the industry for bringing all the very good points. Primarily, we feel that this scheme, especially for the high strength steel category, this is probably going to be a big boost. AMNS has a very strong position in both the high strength steel category and also the coated products, and we feel this can be a big boost. In the high strength category, currently, it's about 7.5 million tons of local production, and exports is about 500,000 tons, and imports of about 2,000 tons, 2,000 KT.
Sorry to interrupt. We are not able to see your PPT.
I'm just sharing it.
Okay.
I think I'm just having some problem sharing it, Ms. Monica. Let me just talk through it. Yeah.
It came to us and then again it has disappeared. So you can again try to share your presentation and put it on slideshow mode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you able to see it now?
Yes, it is visible to us. Just put it on slideshow mode.
Yeah. Okay, are you able to see it now? Okay.
Yes, it's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the overall picture in terms of high strength steel. It's about 7.5 million tons of production, 500,000 tons of exports, imports of about 2 million tons. Total demand is about 9 million tons. The objectives of the scheme is primarily to we are envisaging a good growth in this sector, a growth of about 75 to 80% increase in consumption to about 16 million tons by FY26. A very good round of incentives are required to motivate the local players, the domestic players, to actually get in and produce these adequate volumes. So there is a sizable growth in this segment, and by motivating the players enough, you can actually incentivize them to produce whatever is required. In terms of recommendations, I think a lot of them have been covered already by Mr. Agarwal, by Mr. Sharma, but I'm not I'm not getting too detailed on them. But the first point, I would like to reiterate that the incentive duration of 5 years, as Mr. Agarwal also pointed out very rightly, and my colleagues from the industry must be well aware that steel industry is really a longer gestation period. The investments require longer gestation period to be realized. And the investments also happen over a longer period of time. As Mr. Mahendra was also saying, it takes 2 years to even break the ground for putting up the investment. So given that this is the scenario, a duration of realizing all the benefits in 5 years looks really very ambitious. So this is one thing the government might have to reconsider. One of the suggestions is that you can have a gestation period when the incentive scheme does not kick in, and the 5 years can start beyond that. That may be one suggestion. And if this happens, it can be a big demotivator for the mills, because you will not be able to realize the full incentives that you are targeting. Because you will be eligible only for like a couple of years of the entire 5 years, because the investment itself is going to take 3 years to kick in. The second point, I think Mr. Dhawan highlighted this point, and I second that, is higher minimum threshold of incremental. You have, let's say, for high strength, you have a threshold of about 10% for the high strength steel category. Given that in the high strength steel category, it requires a longer homologation process. I mean, you're not going to utilize your asset to the fullest right from year one. It is going to take a longer period of time. The customers have to accept it. There's a very long homologation process. So with this, the year-on-year incremental threshold of 10% seems very ambitious. This also can be rationalized, can be thought of to be rationalized, and you can start with like a 5%, and as you go on, you can actually increase the threshold. You can actually have a calibrated incremental threshold criteria instead of having a 10% criteria throughout. That can be really very useful. And number 3 is, I think all my industry colleagues will appreciate that the investment also has a lot of, it's a very big capital investment. Any investment in the steel industry is a big capital investment, requiring a lot of approvals, clearances, etc., etc. So you may get into an agreement with the MOU with the government for the scheme, decide to set up the investment, but the investment might take longer for very valid reasons. So over the course of this 5-year period, there should be an option to discuss and get to the drawing board with the government again, and change the plan again, because the investment requires a lot of approvals, clearances, etc. And you might have to change the MOU with the government for very valid reasons. So these are the some of the points or the recommendations that I would humbly submit on behalf of AMNS. AMNS is definitely working towards putting up new investments, especially in the high strength steel category and also in the coated products category. And we are looking forward to the scheme, and I'm sure this scheme is definitely going to contribute towards the Atmanirbharta of India. Thank you, Ms. Monica.
Thank you so much, Raghavan ji. And with this, we are starting our panel discussion. We have started to get a lot of questions. I request all the panelists to turn on their cameras. And VR Sharma sir, if you are there, then you also please turn on your camera. I will take up questions one by one, and then would request the panelists to comment on it.
Yes, please.
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, very much. We can hear you. Okay, so we are taking your questions now. We have this first question from Mr. Subrata Saha. He's asking question from Mr. Anirban Dasgupta. Anirban ji, this question is for you. The question is, while all private sector steel making giants like TSL, JSW, JSPL follow objective focus, professional exclusive distribution policy, and also constant explore newer application engineering in finished products, why public sector giant like SAIL, RINL follow the old route of reaching to end consumer through mandi traders only? Sir, this question is for you from Mr. Subrata Saha.
I think, thank you for the question. I think there is a misconception. I mean, as far as SAIL is concerned, most of our products are sold directly through the stockyards and not through traders. I think traders have some share of the sales, but most of the sales are through the stockyards. And also directly, we are doing a huge amount of direct dispatches from the plant directly to the customers. And we are also strengthening our retail segment as far as TMT bars are concerned. We have started a new line of TMT bars, specially focused for the retail segment. That is called a brand name called SAIL Secure, which is having very superior earthquake resistant properties as well as ductility properties directly through the retailers. So I think about 80 to 90% of our steel are sold either directly to the customer through our stockyards or through our retail channel. Sale through traders are very limited. I mean, this was the question, ma'am. If I could understand the question.
Sir, he meant to ask when private players are, adopting modern ways to sell their steel, then why PSUs are following mandi traders only, sale RINL.
It's not mandi traders. I mean, it's all, and all our sales are happening over the ERP system. The billing is done electronically. The payments are taken electronically. Vendors are paid electronically. So everything is on electronic mode. So nothing like a mandi kind of an atmosphere. I think there are some misconceptions here.
Absolutely, and I like to inform Mr. Subrata Saha that yesterday NMDC Limited has also adopted ERP system as in the iron ore sector. They are the one who have started this SAP system, ERP systems. Moving on to next question we have from Mr. Abhishek Shrivastava. His question is, some of the automakers, especially the multinational ones, prefer to source steel from companies of their own countries. Will such intent not defy the purpose of this scheme? I would like the comment from all of you. Maybe we can start with Mr. V.R. Sharma first.
I think I can take this question to start with. My other friends can supplement. Yes,
Okay.
it is an issue where the OEM manufacturers have been putting forward and asking for clearances of certain steels because they are specified in the specifications, asking only for those grades or specifications so narrow that they are not fitting into the BIS, and then BIS exemptions are being sought. I think through SIMS, such cases have come up, and Ministry of Steel is monitoring and bringing the issues to ASPA, SIAM, ECMA, and then putting it forward back to them. Either they have to change the grades, take BIS first, or you collaborate in India and with the alloy steel manufacturers and give it to either the automakers, OEMs, or the auto component manufacturers. Now, this has resulted today into a situation where more than 90% localization has taken place. There are companies where they have got the collaboration and the such component has gone down. But in the future to come, this scheme is going to help in investment, so that whatever was being imported will have to be manufactured in India and then given to the auto manufacturers. That is as far as auto components or auto sector is concerned. Therefore, rather this scheme will and should reduce imports, and OEM manufacturers may collaborate with the local producers to curb such imports. Thank you. If anybody else has got any
Yeah, I'd like to have more views on this question, please.
Yeah, I will comment on this because today, if you see, Indian industry is geared up to supply all of the grades of steel required by auto industries. You are right, Monica. The question asked by Mrs. Srivastava is correct, that many of the auto manufacturers, car manufacturers, they try to import steel from their country of origin. So this is actually this is a very wrong practice, and it should be stopped. Like for example, the car manufacturers, they don't need any steel for the forged equipment wherever this forging is required. They do not need any steel to be imported in terms of flat products for the car bodies, outer skin panels or inner skin panels. They do not need today to import steel with electrogalvanized coating. They do not need to import steel with galvanum coating. So all of these steels are being produced in the country, JSW, Tata Steel, they are pioneer in these flat products, and now ArcelorMittal also. So JSPL does not produce flat products, but I know the subject, that's why I'm commenting on this. So any grade you ask, whether it's SAPH or IF steel, or it is a low yield to high strength steel, I mean, all those steels India is capable to produce, but the problem is these people, the automakers, they prefer their home industry. I mean, back in Japan or in Korea or in China or wherever, because they want to make their country Atmanirbhar. So this is a very simple example. When they prefer their country, and they prefer that their industry should run, why can't we think that our industry should run? In good old days time, people were importing even steel for the refrigerators, washing machines, white goods appliances, all the white goods appliances they were importing. And we replaced all those products in India by Indian products. So the question is very valid.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
we must try to localize all these products. And the biggest localization is, number one, of course, the government support is required. Number two, our price should be very, very competitive, which is there already. And number three, on-time delivery, just on-time delivery. That helps the automakers also to reduce their cost.
Absolutely, sir. I think this has been a long-standing issue when it comes to auto-grade steel. And I would like to have view of Sharad sir and Raghavan ji also, since JSW and MNS are also producing auto-grade steel, and what kind of challenges they face when they go out to automakers to, what sort of challenges do you face? Sharad ji, first you, and then we will have Raghavan ji's view on this.
Right, Monica. Monica, the point raised by you definitely is there, but the intensity and the seriousness of this, if we compare with what it was maybe 5 years back and today, the resistance from the auto majors or even the appliance, we are also the leading supplier to the appliance industry. There also we have faced and we have gone through this. But in terms of the investment in the technology, bringing out the best of the products which are required initially, yes, maybe we go back 5-7 years back, Indian steel industry was not having that kind of capability to meet their requirement. But today, with the latest of the technologies which have been brought in, the capabilities which have been built, I think majority of the requirements of the industry are being and can be and are being met. But yes, some portions, because when we have discussed with auto majors and all, like majority of the automobile companies are present in multiple locations globally. And when to get the advantage in terms of the pricing and other things, and when the steel supplier is also present in multiple locations, so they enter into a kind of a global tie-up that, okay, in this country, this much, this country, to increase their volumes and get a better pricing. That is one of the reasons that still some of the auto majors are continuing. It is not the question that Indian mills are not capable of. If there is some gap, industry is working on. But as someone said in one of the sessions, or today only, I don't remember, that maybe it was 70% earlier, and today more than 90% of the requirement is being met by the Indian steel industry. So I think this ultimately, I also agree, has to stop within the country. If any auto major is present in India, manufacturing in India, it has to be wholeheartedly taking care of the Indian market. We are more than welcome for them to make India as an export hub, manufacture here and export to rest of the world. We are there with them. But continuing to import when the capability exists in the country, definitely I feel that government definitely needs to look into.
Absolutely. Raghavanji, what is your view? Because you are into high strength steel, you are supplying rails, you are also into auto grade steel. What challenges do you face in India when it comes to foreign car makers?
Absolutely. I think 2 points here, Monica ma'am. So I think it's been rather well covered by the panelists. There is a significant change that is already happening. That's our point of view. A lot of shift is happening towards localization. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense to source local products for these automakers. Not just automakers. Two very relevant examples have already been touched upon. One is appliances, where we also have a very strong presence. Even JSW has a strong presence. Well, we have seen that shift happening because it makes economic sense to actually source local products. But having said that, I was also touching this point. If we want to fast track the movement towards local products, in the steel industry particularly, there is a long homologation process. The government really has to handhold the steel mills, the steel makers through this process, through schemes like this, through the incentive schemes like this, which can be a real boost. And this can really fast track the homologation process and make the steel mills able to supply local products to these very demanding customers.
Right.
Which is happening. It's already happened in the past. There is evidence of that. And in the future, if we have to expedite some kind of incentives, which the government is already working upon, it's just a matter of time, I think.
Right. So moving on to next question, we have it from Mr. Rajiv Shukla. He's asking, curbing imports is the need of an hour in India by offering quality and import substitute products to end users. Onus on domestic steel producers to explore producing steel which is not available in India, like electro-galvanized, ultra-high strength steel, etc. Is there any plan of AMNS in this direction? So has AMNS planned anything? Raghavan, this question is for you.
Ma'am, I would just leave it a little open-ended. Definitely, AMNS is working on bringing in new technologies, new innovations, new products. Definitely, we're working on a host of new products. I may not want to comment here about what are the products that we are working on, but yes, there is going to be a lot of new technologies, new products which are not there in India that's going to be brought.
Right. So I want to ask one or two questions from my side. So this question is, coated steel is a huge family and large number of specifications are involved. How would you prioritize where PLI can be taken and where not, Sharadji?
Can you repeat, Monica? I just lost you in between.
So the question is, the coated steel is a huge family and large number of specifications are involved. How would you prioritize when PLI can be taken and where not? Where can we take PLI and where we cannot?
See, as I told you, when we are talking of special steel, yes, within the coated family, we talk of the normal galvanized. If it is my own individual personal view, if I talk of individually galvanized, I will say that is not a special steel anymore. It's just a rolling and coating which is done, which is nothing very special. But yes, making steel which is like galvanneal or galvalume, people will say that it is also a coating of a different alloy. But the kind of segments it is catering to, one of the largest segment consuming galvalume is the solar segment, where there is a product life of 25 years, 30 years, where there is a warranty which is involved. And the technology which is there, it is not natural, really just the coating, but there are many other factors also. Because it is not just the substrate hot rolled that you take the grade and you do the coating. It is also the controlled coating at what temperature, many technical parameters are there. So I will say that color coated, it is again a value addition. It is a highly customized product, whether it is for appliance, whether it is for pre-engineering building sectors, for what application it is going, whether it is going for sandwich panels. There are multiple usage. It is not just the roofing. So I feel that within that, if it needs to be categorized, the weightage to be given, I think can move on the basis of the value chain. Like tin, if you see today, tin is a very, very very high value added product, very, very quality sensitive, because it is related to the health, human health also, because the food industry, which is the non-oil can segment of the tin industry, which is basically also a large amount of tin products, tin being manufactured by the steel industry goes into the food product storage. So there, the kind of value addition which is happening. So I think keeping in mind the criticality of the operations of the end product use, those should be the criteria to prioritize in terms of the value addition, employment. See, PLI in isolation, again, I am repeating, should not be seen. What are the objectives of this scheme, PLI scheme? Which is the products, which range of segment of the steel products are meeting the maximum of this criteria? Should be given due weightage.
Absolutely,
Like,
absolutely.
whether it is employment generation, whether it is related to import replacement, export capability, lot many things to take care. So all those factors also, which of the sectors, products are meeting the maximum criteria of this objective of this scheme, should be given the due weightage, is what I will summarize as. And one thing, okay, this is what I wanted to touch upon. Another thing
So
was
this is basically a good piece of information. This is definitely a good piece of information which you have just shared, because a lot of people would be having this dilemma when we talk about color-coated steel. There is a wide range, wide variety under the color-coated. I want to take up one more.
I would just like to touch upon the question on which Raghavan started, of the question which was asked by Mr. Rajiv Shukla regarding electro-galvanized. So we have to see that import replacement and the capability building. We also have to understand why the industry has still not acted upon aggressively to replace, bring in, build up the capabilities within the country. See, there we have to say a product which doesn't have any BIS norms till recently, the amount of import which is coming, and the electro-galvanized, the amount of rejects which are coming in the country, maybe more than 60% of the rejects from rest of the world are coming in India. And the BIS norm says that there has to be a minimum amount of coating for roofing sheets, whether it is galvanized or color-coated. There is no BIS for electro-galvanized with a zinc coating of 30 micron. These are being pre-painted and used for roofing. Whom are we taking advantage of? Our poor customers, because there is no BIS standard which occurs. So keeping all those things in mind, in isolation, it should not be seen that electro-galvanized, make it a level playing field. Industry will be more than keen to invest in all the fields. That is what I will like to talk about electro-galvanized. Industry is keen to invest in electro-galvanized if it's a level playing field.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. So we have one question with regards to rails. So for that, I would like Mr. Anirban and Mr. V.R. Sharma to comment. The question is, high-speed railway, dedicated freight corridors, rapid metro, and many other similar projects. Rail demand is going to be huge in India, as we see. Do you see an export market as well at the same time, Anirban ji?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah. And between us and JSPL, probably we'll be able to serve all the rail requirement of the Indian Railway, even globally also. Because I think we'll be able to pick all the grades of rail which is now being perceived. The high-strength rails, R260 grade, which you just mentioned, with excellent properties, standard rails, heat-treated rails, asymmetric rails. So we'll be able to serve the entire requirement of rails. We can export also. But one big advantage of using our rails in the country is that we can supply these 260-meter welded panels. I mean, with one welding joint, we can give a 260-meter panel to the Indian Railways, which can, so in a kilometer, only 3 joints welding will be required. And as you appreciate, lesser is the number of welded joints, safer is the rail. So you might have noticed now, since the rails have become longer, the amount of khat-khat noise which you used to hear earlier has now reduced significantly because there are hardly any joints. And exports, yes, we had been exporting in historically. We have exported to Bangladesh, we have exported to Nepal, JSPL has exported to Iran, and we can export. I mean, our rails are no way inferior to any other rails in the world. And basically, we also believe that the quality standards which we make, which we maintain, which is rigorously inspected by agencies like RISE, are the best in the world.
Right, sir. Sir, Sharma, sir, question was, I'm hearing an echo.
No, it's okay.
Just one.
It's all right.
Okay, so the question was, with the real demand growing in India, do you see export market as well? As in, will SAIL and JSPL will be able to, supply rails in domestic and exports when the demand is increasing in domestic market itself? So.
Yeah, thank you. Today, I would say India is the lowest cost producer of rails in the world. So this is a very significant achievement by Steel Authority of India and also by JSPL. As rightly said by my friend Mr. Anirban, we can meet out the entire country's requirement. Put together, countries having 2.6 million ton capacity in these two plants. The requirement is about 1.5 million ton. So both of us have enough room to export. We are also exporting now, and of late, we have started getting a lot of orders from overseas markets, especially from MENA countries and also from Bangladesh and Malaysia and Sri Lanka. So it's a great opportunity, but there we are exporting only up to 26 meter of length. Whereas in India, rightly said by Anirban ji, that we can supply up to 260 meters of panels, which is definitely a great advantage. Similarly, like metro rails, the imported metro rails are coming in the length of 13 meter or 25 meter or 26 meters. We can supply to Indian metro from 65 meter to 260 meters, which will help them in laying the rails on a very fastest time. Secondly, the metro people, when they import the rail, they will have to import in bulks about 5,000 tons, the minimum order quantity. Whereas we are delivering them 500 tons at their site. So this means their working capital requirement becomes very low. It is reduced significantly. Secondly, 5,000 tons at a time when it comes to the port. From port again, after the custom clearance, they will have to take it to the sites. It takes, the total cycle is about 6 months, because tender document, then opening the LC, then making MOQ, and then rolling the rails in overseas by some of the foreign supplier, and then bringing it to the site. Whereas we supply within 6 weeks time. So 6 weeks to 6 months, this is the difference. So this means all of the projects can be completed on time. Rail will not be a bottleneck. And this is what we are, this is our USP. We are selling to all of the metro rail authorities and to Indian Railways that we are the right partner for them. Country has a projection to reach to 1.8 million ton of rail consumption by 2023, and finally 2.5 million ton by 2025. So if this happens, if this comes true, then these two mills based out of Chhattisgarh, having a flavor of Chhattisgarh iron ore, can definitely meet out the entire country's requirement.
So are you exporting rails as well right now, or you're just supplying it to domestic market?
Yeah, we are exporting about 20,000 tons per month, rails.
Okay. So before I end, I would like to ask each panelist one thing which the government should do to make this scheme a success. One by one, I want just one suggestion from each one of you, which you think the government should include in the scheme. One suggestion from each panelist. So I will go one by one, starting from Mr. Saurabh. Saurabh ji, just one suggestion from your side.
No voice. आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है, no sound.
I think one suggestion from my end will be around the gestation period. I think overall there is a big gestation period in setting up a plant wherever there is a new setup required. So at least there should be a block of 5 years period which should be provided to the industry over a period of 10 years to give them the incentives in any 5 years which they choose. So assuming the incentive scheme goes live from 21-22 onwards, the block of 10 years should be given to industry, out of which they can choose five years which they want to go ahead. when they apply for this scheme, rather than having no gestation period. That's from.
So your point is the 5 years of gestation period should be increased, and at least I think 10 years period should be suitable for the scheme.
No, sorry, Monica, I am not saying so. I am saying government is likely to go ahead with 5 years period itself, because that's what is coming in other schemes as well, and that's the plan. Like I am saying that within that 5 years, so 5 years should be a block. So from 21-22, if the scheme starts, because typically a project will have a gestation cycle of say 2 to 3 years for a DOCP to happen. So the industry should be given that particular choice, that from 21-22 till 29-30, they can choose a block of 5 years through which they can claim the incentives from the government, so that the gestation period which is involved in setting up the project and to make the project live, that will be taken care of by such block period.
Right. Anirban ji, one suggestion from your side, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Thank you. One suggestion, I was looking through that this 6,000 odd crore is the total sum which is available for the 5 years period. So we have to do a calculation, but in my personal opinion, probably this is an inadequate kind of a allocation. Probably the government can consider increasing this kitty. Apart from that, increasing that block year, if that happens, also the kitty requirement also will go up. But as such, I think 6,000 odd crores spread over 5 years is probably will need a relook in terms of increasing this amount.
So you think the amount is very, very limited and it needs a revision?
Yes, because I think if you do a rough calculation, probably the tonnages which you are envisaging will not be able to, I mean, the kitty will get exhausted very fast.
Absolutely, absolutely. VR Sharma sir, one suggestion from you, just one, which you think which is extremely important, needs to be highlighted at first.
You see, over and above the financial numbers, I would just tell one thing. Let us support Prime Minister's approach and his campaign, what he is driving today, Atmanirbhar Bharat. Whether it is steel or it is vaccine, he is doing his best. Whether it is defense items or it is agro products, so he is doing in all good spirit for the nation. And my one suggestion to all of the industry people, the technocrats, the captain of the industry, that let us make Atmanirbhar Bharat a reality. And rest all are the dividend of this Atmanirbharta or Atmanirbhar Bharat. Rest all is the dividend which you are going to reap in times to come.
Thank you so much. Sharad sir, one suggestion from your side, sir.
Yeah, apart from like the gestation period is a common thing which is coming from all the panelists. In addition to that, I will say in terms of the value addition and the objectives, whichever section of the entire product range selected as a specialty steel is meeting the requirement, the weightage to be relooked into in terms of the value addition resulting in employment as the criteria or capability building. I think import 3% to be very precise, quoted on an average 3.9 and the highest value added color at 3%. This needs to be definitely seriously looked into, because this is the highest investment in the entire chain.
Dr. Dhawan, one suggestion from your side, sir.
Yeah, I think very well covered by the panelists, except for and very specific to alloy steels, and that is expanding the family that has been mentioned to cover the grades which we have said, and thereby expanding the allocation also almost to 40% of the total output. Full stop. Thank you.
Great. Raghavan ji, from your side, one suggestion, please.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. So I would say that, I mean, it's a very well conceptualized scheme, but implementation is most critical. I think a lot of criterias, etc., clauses, criterias can really make it difficult for people to understand this and participate. So simplification of the whole procedure and making it easy for people, to participate and ensure that the real objectives are met, which is import substitution, making India Atmanirbhar. Those are the key suggestions.
Great. Thank you so much, Raghavanji. With this, I am ending this lively session. With this, I would like to thank to our expert panelists. We had, starting from Mr. Saurabh Agarwal, partner, Ernst & Young LLP, Mr. Anirban Dasgupta, CEO, Bhilai Steel Plant Sale, Mr. VR Sharma, Managing Director, Jindal Steel and Power Limited, Mr. Sharad Mahendra, CEO, JSPL Steel Coated Products, Dr. Dhawan, Dr. Anil Dhawan, Executive Director of Alloy Steel Producers Association of India, Mr. Raghavan, Aravamudhan, Head of Business Strategy, AMNS India. And thank you to our audience who never fails to make any session interesting by putting up great questions. Once again, thanks to our sponsors. The webinar sponsored by Jindal Steel and Power Limited and our associate partner, Dyna Roof Private Limited. Viewers, a recorded version of this webinar is now available on our YouTube channel. Please do not miss to subscribe youtube.com/MetaLogic PMS to get the latest updates, video updates. With this, wishing you all a very happy and prosperous new year and prayers for this year to go well. With this, I'd like to end this session. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof. LTCG, logo, thickness, certificate and guard fill. When buying, check for the Dyna Roof logo and thickness on the reverse of the roofing sheet. Authorized dealer certificate and Dyna Roof logo on the guard film to ensure it is a genuine Dyna Roof product. If you want a roof, go for Dyna Roof.